Hey everybody, welcome to Meet the Games, episode 4. I am your host, John Hood from Infinite Lives. Joining me is my partner in crime, Mr. Dan Paredes. Hey Dan.
Hey, what's up? We got 4 games again this week to look at.
Yes, I took a look at Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, the latest in my Assassin's Creed yearly penance, as well as Westerado Double Barreled, which is a pixel art style Zelda-inspired RPG kind of thing.
And I also looked at Apotheon, which is an action platformer game with a Metrovania-style twist. And I also looked at Elite Dangerous, which is a space sim.
All right, well, now that we've got the introductions out of the way, why don't we move into our first video, which is Apotheon.
The gods have abandoned you. What love they once gave is now gone.
There is something to be said about the graphical aesthetic in a video game. Like any work of art, it can complete an experience and push an otherwise good game into great status. This is separate from graphical fidelity like a hyper-realistic Call of Duty game. Think of Okami's cel-shaded brilliance or the stark simplicity of Limbo and how that style reflects the game. Apotheon has that in spades. Having a graphical style similar to an ancient Greek vase, it fits the story of fighting the Olympus gods. In fact, everything from the animation and character design is just top-notch. This game looks like nothing you've ever seen before. So the game looks great, and even sounds great.
You've got nothing.
But I'm not really passionate about Apotheon. At its heart, Apotheon is a bit of a hybrid action platformer with a hint of RPG-ness mixed in with some Metroidvania. You can find or earn better armor and weapons. You can even craft potions and projectiles. There are a ton of different weapons that fit every kind of situation or playstyle. I really like the spears and javelins as they both excel at melee and thrown weapons. It is a shame, though, that the combat in Apotheon feels too loose, floaty, and unconnected. Perhaps the flow of the action eluded me, but the fighting really should drive this game into greatness. With the diverse weaponry and the setting, I wanted combat to be strategic and tense. However, I was left simply disappointed. There are moments when it almost clicks. Throwing a spear and killing an enemy instantly is definitely fun, but the moment-to-moment decisions in combat feel arbitrary and, again, loose. I wouldn't call Apotheon a bad game, or even a mediocre one. I really wanted to love this. I love Greek mythology, and I love the setting, and I love the graphics. But eventually I had to face the fact that while close, Apotheon falls just short.
So that was Apotheon. Dan, I also played this game, and I only paid the high price of $0 because I got it as a PS Plus game.
Oh.
But I kind of have the same feelings you did about the game, where it's like right there, like on the cusp of being a great game, but there's just something missing with it.
Yeah, like I said in the video, it looks good. It's got a good setting. It's even got interesting stuff in the setting. Like the Greek mythology is really leaned on, and it's not kind of.
It feels accurate in there too.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
more.
just.
It's not a God of War kind of reinterpretation of Greek mythology. When you see Dionysus, you're like, yeah, this makes sense. It's Dionysus. And then they have, I'm guessing accurate Greek style weapons and things like that.
It
seems like
right,
it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's probably one of those things. Also, like the combat is just not for myself, and obviously,
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like
was,
it's for you.
It's like serviceable, but you wanted it to be better. Like if they're gonna make it simplistic, make it simplistic. But it seems like they kind of straddle the line between like, oh, we're gonna give you all these options, but we're also not gonna make the combat feel very good. Like when you're actually hitting a guy, like you said, you throw a spear at a guy and hit him in the head, and you're like, that's awesome. But then you're in these long, protracted like shield block. Try and hit a guy. Nope, I didn't hit him. So.
Well, it's not even that, because I would like a little bit more of a tactical thing, but you end up like how you move around and everything like that, and then your floaty jump and everything. You're just kind of flying around the entire
yeah,
map.
definitely.
And it doesn't feel like that's exactly what they're going for or something. I feel like this criticism is one of those things where if we were different people and we were doing the same exact look into the same game, we could very well be like, wow, this combat's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I like that it's floaty and that I have a it's all kind of crazy and things like that. But for me, the kind of style that they're going for with like an accurate Greek retelling and really kind of like a somber tone and everything, and then just having your guy like bounce around and things like that, it feels like it's not it's fighting against its tone.
Yeah, and the animations in it are really good too, which is surprising because your guy just like bounces around all over the place. But
yeah, the game looks terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, if you Google ancient Greek Voss,
that's what this
base,
looks like. Yeah,
and then you click on images, like it looks exactly like what that is. Like there's a lot of great detail in that, and it's I really wanted this to be good.
Yeah, I know we played it at PAX a few years back, and like we were both looking forward to this. Like, oh yeah, this will be something to keep an eye out on, and it just kind of didn't meet up to our expectations.
Yeah, I think we were looking forward to see how it developed. I think we probably still had the same idea that maybe the combat and the movement was kind of weird. But yeah, I mean the first thing that comes out to you is that it looks great, and this does look great.
So yeah, that's Apotheon. Take a look at it on Steam or PS4 if you have a chance.
Yeah. And now we're going to switch gears and look at Assassin's Creed China.
Chronicles China.
Whatever.
China.
Considering my love-hate relationship with Assassin's Creed, it shouldn't come as any surprise that I decided to take a look at the latest entry in the series, which takes a stark departure from the standard gameplay and instead drops you into a 2D version of the stealth action game. Suffice to say, there are some good things, and as to be expected, some really annoying and bad things about the game. Let's start with the positives so we just don't feel bad straight out of the gate. The setting and protagonist of the game are wildly outside the standard conventions of the AC world, with you playing a female assassin in ancient China of all places. The story is standard AC fare, battling the Templars and trying to recover, protect some kind of artifact. Normally, the game uses in-engine as well as pre-rendered cutscenes to convey the story, but in this tale, the story is conveyed through pictures similar in style to paintings from the period. The look is nice and the voiceover work is sufficient, although I do wish the dialogue was a bit louder, as the protagonist Xiao Jun seems to be whispering a majority of her lines. Overall, the game does evoke a medieval China quite well, and I'd definitely be interested in a full-fledged game set on that side of the world, just to see something different. As long as it isn't as sparse as AC3's colonial America was.
He's known for his cruel deeds.
So now that we've gotten the completely positive stuff out of the way, let's get to the so-so stuff in the game. I'll start with the controls, which straddle the line between serviceable and downright archaic. The actual character animations and movement all look good. There just is a real sense that nothing is as responsive as I want it to be. I find myself trying to press something and feel a definite delay in the action being carried out. For instance, when trying to assassinate a guard from the shadows, it shouldn't take 5 seconds to carry out the action, during which time you are completely exposed to other enemies, and more often than not get spotted, thus defeating the purpose of using stealth in the first place. Many a decent sequence so far has been ruined by such an animation. In other stealth games of this style, Mark of the Ninja is the paramount of recent memory. It feels very easy to get out of a sticky situation, but here it is nearly impossible to correct yourself once a small mistake is made. So I will advise you to be very deliberate in your actions, lest you end up with a poor rating for the sequence, because you have to engage in the next aspect of the game that isn't handled very well, combat. So as an assassin, of course, it isn't the best to engage in straight-up combat, and your best bet is to kill from the shadows as much as possible. However, this game really makes your character seem very wooden in that combat. Instead of being able to deftly move around, your basic strategy entails holding the B button and pressing a direction on the stick to either block a sword or potentially dodge an arrow or projectile. Even the last game, with its stripped-down combat, at least felt more survivable than this game. I think with a few tweaks to the blocking and dodging, it could be a much more fluid game, which should be the goal with any combat in an Assassin's Creed game. You're supposed to be a badass, not fighting with the controls constantly, just trying to survive. Considering the price I paid for the game, it was free due to my ill-advised Season Pass purchase on Unity. I shouldn't be too upset with it, but in reality, with the resources available to Ubisoft and the smaller scope of the game, I guess I was expecting more. We've seen games like this come from much smaller developers with better gameplay, so there really isn't any reason I can see to explain why this is such a disappointment. They've already shown that they can do some really special things with a smaller team and a definitive vision. Child of Light, Valiant Hearts, and Grow Home all come to mind from Ubisoft alone, so it doesn't make any sense how their flagship series always seems to get something wrong. I guess if you have the season pass, pick it up and give it a try at least to see the different story and setting, but otherwise maybe wait for this to be on a super cheap before giving it a chance.
So that was Assassin's Creed Chronicles, China, why would I play this above Mark of the Ninja, John?
You shouldn't play this above Mark of the Ninja. You should go play Mark of the Ninja instead. That's a better game.
You should probably play Mark of the Ninja.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
This game just, like I said in there, I directly compared it to Mark of the Ninja. You can make a mistake in Mark of the Ninja and get out of it very quickly, and then you're fine. In this, it's like, oh crap, I made a mistake. That guy saw me. And I'm going to try and get away. But nope, he's on alert. Now everybody is alerted, and now I'm going to die.
Yeah.
The combat's terrible.
It's amazing that with all the resources that Ubisoft has, that they can make a game that's still so compared to like these smaller studios that are making these 2D action platformer things. I mean, while I was watching the video, I was like, oh, that looks like it could have been a really cool game.
It looks good. Like, the actual aesthetic of the game is fantastic. The assets, the art, and everything is good. The voice actors are good, and all that stuff is fine. It's just the core gameplay itself is just so lacking that it's not worth it unless you're like me and a glutton for Assassin's Creed punishment.
Well, we'll get to that, but I do appreciate that they're using a setting that's not in the West.
Yeah, no, it's good. And like I said, I want to see a game set here in like China. That would be awesome during medieval times, because it would be cool to see what's going on there and like see them model a world like that.
Yeah.
So in more than just like a side view.
So if I'm an Assassin's Creed fan and I've stuck with the series this long, should I still play this game?
Yes, if you're an Assassin's Creed fan, you should play this game.
Well, there you have it. You should play this game if you like to hurt yourself.
Yeah, because you probably bought the season pass like I did, and it's free, so why not?
All right.
Well, we've got the next game we're going to take a look at here is Elite Dangerous.
From space. I have always wanted to really get into EVE Online. Like, really get into it. Sometimes I wonder if in another life, and if the game hit me at the right time, if I would have been one of those obsessed EVE people that are referenced in an article entitled Top 10 EVE Online Moments You Won't Ever Believe. Well, probably not, but the idea of EVE Online is interesting. I have tried on 2 separate occasions to get through a 14-day free trial, but to no avail. Elite Dangerous is what happens when you take EVE Online and allow the player to sit in the cockpit and have direct control of their spaceship. It is phenomenal, and I love it. But the appeal for this game is so specific that I have a hard time recommending this to almost anybody. Elite Dangerous is the 4th game of the Elite series that started in 1984. It's a widely influential series that inspired tons of game developers. In fact, if you grew up with this series on a BBC Micro, you were probably cringing at the comparison to EVE Online. How could I have never heard of this series until now? The Elite series is relatively simple. You control a single spaceship from your cockpit and explore, fight, trade, smuggle, and even mine across the universe. Yes, there was a space sim in 1984 that was open world with space mining, piracy, and the ability to upgrade your ship. Ye gods, I thought Stellar 7 was mind-blowing. Elite Dangerous is largely what the original games were, with more options, better graphics, and an interesting online component. You start with a basic but capable Sidewinder spaceship and 100 credits. After that, you dock at space stations, get missions, hunt down criminals, and even become a criminal yourself. You can trade, you can mine, you can even earn enough reputation to join one of the 3 major factions in the game. There are also smaller independent factions that you'll find sprinkled throughout the universe. You can even do just about anything you've ever associated with the Millennium Falcon or space smugglers. The wide open and endless nature reminds me of a more refined version of the radiant quest system in Skyrim. The quests are randomly generated, but the experience is so immersive, so full of details and lore that the game really comes alive. Elite Dangerous manages to feel both interconnected and empty at the same time. It really feels like you were exploring something new, something unknown. Combat is solid, and I would definitely spring for a joystick. The stick greatly enhances the experience in a way that truly surprised me. Dogfighting felt fine before, but became intense and exhilarating. The big downside, and why I can't fully recommend this game to everybody, is that it has a long learning curve and constant grinding for credits. New ships and top-notch upgrades are expensive. Elite Dangerous is not a pick-up-and-play game. This is a time investment, but you will be rewarded with some of the best space sim gameplay that you can buy for $60. Elite Dangerous is such a unabashedly PC game that I struggle to see how it can even be ported to a home console. The tutorial is hilariously lacking and obtuse. The game doesn't push you in any direction. Elite whispers, "Here's a spaceship, and there's the Milky Way. Go now, be free."
So that was Elite Dangerous, Dan. You said that this is a PC-ass PC game,
Yeah.
but it's coming to consoles this year.
Yeah, Xbox One, and they're gonna actually looking at cross-platform play.
Yeah, spacefaring with your friends on consoles.
Yeah, I'd be really impressed to see how they translate that, because I started on an Xbox 360 controller, and while I could do a lot of the main functions and everything, I still needed to use a keyboard, and the throttle was a little hard to navigate.
Well, the cool thing about having it on the Xbox One is it has the Kinect, which is got the head tracking stuff for a lot of the menu things, but also the voice commands, because you can actually talk to the Kinect. So
True.
I think you could shortcut a lot of things with that, because that brings us on to our next point, which we talked about, which you said you got a joystick for this game, but you can get a whole lot more, can't you?
Yeah. So my friend David, who I play with, he actually got the full setup. So this is what you can do if you're really crazy with Elite Dangerous. You can buy a really expensive Sci-Tech HOTAS with a detachable throttle, which can retail from $200 to $400. On top of that, you can buy a Track IR, which I believe the latest version is about like $130 with some attachments. You can do that.
You can customize the Track IR even, yeah.
On top of that, you can even get voice recognition software that some people use for the game, and even on top of that, you can make sure that your computer voice is the voice of
Holly from Red Dwarf. So yeah.
You can get really crazy with this game.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So you've been playing this for about 30 hours now, you said?
Yeah, I've about almost 30 hours.
Give me an encapsulation of your experience in that 30 hours.
So I would say maybe about the first 10 to 15 hours is really learning how to play the game. Not to say that I wasn't having fun in those points. Just kind of learning how to navigate is like it's not chore, but a big ask, because there's a lot of different things about it, a lot of things to just kind of learn on navigation. And
there's like two different speeds that you can travel through between systems, I know. So that's even that alone is confusing.
Yeah, there's technically your regular speed, then you have a thing called Super Cruise, which you can travel within a system, because even within a solar system or a star system, planets are very far apart from each other.
Oh yeah.
And then in between star systems, you're going into hyperspace.
So yeah,
so there's just even with that, there's even it even models gravitational wells for the planets. So there's you can even slingshot yourself around planets using the momentum from that.
It's a daunting game, to say the least, from what you've mentioned. So
yeah, I actually I have a 200-some page PDF manual that I found somewhere that was very helpful for me. I didn't read all 200 pages, but just if I had a question about like what to do. Yeah. So just a good example of how hard it is to learn the game just within the game without any
nothing to assist you. Yeah.
So on the tutorial, when you're engaging hyperspace, it says line up yourself with your compass. It doesn't tell you where the compass is on your dashboard, and the compass doesn't look like a compass.
No, I saw you pointed out to me, and I went, that
yeah, it's like a circle,
a
and then there's a little dot that you have to get in within this crosshair. That's not a compass to me.
No. Compass
maybe
has
some space compass.
yeah, north, south, east, west. That's compass.
Yeah. So I mean, you have to learn the game.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay. Cool.
So that leaves us our final game, which we're going to take a look at. John played it, called Westerado Double Barrel. Can't believe you stole my finger thing.
Alright, I'm just gonna take a quick look at a little Adult Swim game. Should be about 5 minutes of enjoyment, not much else going on. Wait a minute, I've been playing for an hour and a half and have barely touched the main story. Wow, what a charming little game. Starting it up for the first time, I honestly didn't know what to expect. I've seen some positive thoughts online, but didn't read too much other than a few headlines touting the game as something that should be played. After some time, I can say that Westerado Double Barreled by Ostrich Banditos is definitely something worth taking a look at. To say this game feels like the original Zelda would probably be the most apt description I can think of to describe it. I spent much of my initial playtime wandering around without any real sense of what I wanted to do next, figuring out the mechanics and trying to get as much cash as I could to upgrade my gun. The game's combat takes place in real time, and you have to actually draw your gun and cock it before you can fire. And each shot has the same process. It makes every shot really count for something, as missing a shot can result in you getting shot yourself. Your life is represented by hats, because as your brother and uncle tell you, not having a hat is lethal. You can also pull your gun on anyone, and in most cases the bad guys won't immediately attack you, which can lead to you getting in a couple of shots before anyone is the wiser. If I have a small criticism, it's that the movement feels a bit too rigid. You can really only move up, down, left, and right while your gun is drawn, but you have full 8-direction movement when moving normally. It's just a weird thing that I noticed, and doesn't really detract from anything too much. It just takes some getting used to. The story itself has you starting out with a typical revenge tale, out to avenge the death of your mother and brother, who you actually have to put out of his misery, messed up, and trying to get enough clues to figure out what this mysterious killer looks like. It's of course cliched and cheesy, but it works. There are plenty of NPCs to talk to and do odd jobs for. I do wish there was a little bit of guidance on certain quests, as some of them seem pretty extensive, and not a whole lot of contextual help is given. One quest early on has a ghost asking you to help them find a pickaxe, and for the life of me I checked every damn room in that mine, and there are several pickaxes that don't seem to fit the bill. Also, some of the areas have a sign telling you that you can make sure to have a miner's hat on, but for the life of me I couldn't find one. I did eventually solve the puzzle, but it was after coming back to the game and just saying fuck it, let's go through the caves. The game looks excellent, with a perfect use of pixel art style, but the music itself is anything but, with the perfect amount of silence and an excellent transition to battle music when you get into a gunfight. The one thing I see as being a potential issue is that so many of the character models look similar, I think I might have a problem recognizing the actual murderer even when I get all the details. And yup, sure enough, I triggered the endgame with the murderer completely on accident while trying to take down a bounty. To sum things up, this is the kind of game that perfectly evokes that nostalgic feeling of exploration and gameplay in the best way possible. The emotional connection you will have to some pixel art characters delivering cliched monologues feels earned. For those of you looking for a game that turns out to be much deeper than its initial impressions, strap on your 6-shooter and ride off into the world of cowboys and existential crisis. Trust me on this one, it makes sense if you play the game.
So that was Westerado Double Barreled. I love westerns.
I do too.
This looks pretty cool.
It's a pretty awesome game.
Yeah, I actually played it too, and there's something about the Old West setting.
Yeah.
With evoking Clint Eastwood stuff and Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because you were the first one to play Red Dead Redemption out of us, and then you told me I needed to play it, and I believe I borrowed your copy to play that game.
Yeah,
so.
I still think that's actually Rockstar's best game.
Yeah, I'm actually on the same camp with you on that one. Yeah, better than GTA games, I think, too.
Yeah, so a thing I want us to talk a little bit about
Sure.
With Westerado is the fact that it's a murder mystery.
Yeah, it is. It's literally a murder mystery. Your brother and your mother get killed, and you basically get one clue. He says, "I remember this."
Yeah.
And then you get a wanted poster that shows up, and then everything else starts flashing randomly.
Yeah, so you're doing quests for people, and your reward a lot of times is, well, sometimes money, but you also get rewarded with another clue.
Yep.
And
like,
so you have this one screen in your inventory that has an evolving picture of what the person looks like.
Yep.
And
it's different every time you play.
yes, and that you can accuse anybody of being.
Yeah, you can walk up to anybody and say, "It was you," and then they go, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm ending this conversation." Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, so I mean, talk a little bit about like how you ended the game early.
So yeah, you saw it in the video there. Basically, I was actually trying to do a bounty quest and bring a guy back to the sheriff to collect some cash. And so I shot at him because he wouldn't come with me willingly. And I shot his hat off, but apparently the bullet kept going and hit the murderer.
Yeah.
So the murderer takes off on a horse, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what happened? And he's like, ha ha ha, come chase me. And I didn't realize it until after I took the bounty to the where the sheriff was located.
Yeah.
And he didn't move at all. But then I talked to a random person, like, you're not going to be able to chase him on that horse. I'm like, what happened? And then so 5 minutes later, I'm like, did I just trigger the end game?
Yeah. I'm
like, oh, okay, time to go to the end game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful open world game in that sense where it's not made by a major studio.
No.
There's Adult Swim games, and so they're allowed to really like put stuff like that where you can trigger the ending just by dumb luck sometimes.
Yeah. And you can kill anybody. Like, you can kill all main NPCs. They have a nifty way around it, but you can kill anybody in that game.
Yeah.
Like, pull out your gun and shoot them. It might make the town come after you guns a-blazing, but you can still do it. And then also, I really called it out as being a Zelda-style exploration game.
Yeah, even the map looks like Zelda 1. The very
exactly.
first
That's
Legend of
exactly
Zelda.
what I felt when I started walking through the screens. Like, I would go to a different screen, and I'd start seeing my map fill in, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is like Zelda 1. Like, okay, so I know to get to this town or to this cave, I have to go up 4 and then over 3.
Yep.
And like they've got the lanes drawn out for you, but it's like that was the perfect evocation of like the Zelda 1 like feeling I had when I first played that game.
So I think it's safe to say that if you have $15, throw it Westerado's way.
Yeah, they deserve every dollar that you can pour out of their cold dead hands. So yeah, that's going to wrap things up for this week on Meet the Games. We covered a plethora of games.
Assassin's Creed Chronicles,
China,
Japan,
yep,
Brazil,
yep.
USSR,
Apotheon for you Greek mythology fans out there.
Greece, and also Elite Dangerous from space.
And finally, Westerado double-barreled. Thanks for joining us on Meet the Games. We'll be back next time with another episode.